Yo, what's good, man? We are back with another episode of the Real Rap Coalition podcast, man. And today we come to bring to y'all episode 22. Today's episode was brought to you by Luno. But before we get into the episode, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. My name is Showtime Slim. Who else we got in the building?
Mr. Bob Celeste, legend shit. You already know. We here, man. Manchurian Candidate. Let's get into it.
Hey man, y'all already know who it is. White guy of the bunch. I'd like to apologize that Slim has us on this new format that's fucked up my microphone quality. But we gonna rock
out. I would like to say that your microphone was not fucked up on the test run. This is you. All right, go ahead, black guy.
This is your man's, your player partner, Black Roots, in this bitch. Let's get it, man.
Gotta lower this nigga volume.
Yeah, man. It's a good one. Pull up, get your blunts ready. Listen closely to KTL because his mic is shit. Just enjoy yourself. Let's do it. Pause.
Yeah, fucking drunk piece of shit.
All right. Well, shit, Slim. I'm in charge of the synopsis here. This week, we have a pretty interesting kind of thriller political drama that we covered. Before we get into it, first of all, we want to shout out StreamYard. We're trying out StreamYard here for the future of the podcast, so hopefully this shit runs smoothly. Second of all, there's definitely going to be some spoilers, so if you didn't watch this crazy movie, please make sure to watch it at your earliest convenience so you can get in on the conversation. Obviously, like and subscribe if you fuck with what we're doing here. Okay, so the movie that we watched for this week is The Manchurian Candidate, 2004 political thriller, starring none other than Denzel Washington, among some other names, including Meryl Streep, Liev Schreiber, John Voight, and Kimberly Elise. This movie has a set during the Gulf War. Pretty much a captain of a military unit starts having some effects after he leaves the war. He starts having nightmares. He starts doubting that his old squad mate, who's now running for vice president, is exactly who he remembers him to be. In the war, he has recollections that he's the guy that saved his life. But as things develop and he starts digging deeper, it seems like what happened in the past is starting to be shown, and it's not what everybody thinks that it is. And so Manchurian Candidate sets us up for pretty much a story of Denzel Washington, this ex-military captain trying to get to the bottom of this shit, man. So crazy movie. Can't wait to get everybody's thoughts on it. And, for starters, let's talk about Mr. Denzel Washington, because we ran into Mr. Denzel a few weeks ago covering Mo Better Blues, and he was in a role that was kind of similar because there was some depth to the character, but the setting was quite different. So what do you guys think about Denzel Washington's performance this time around?
I think it was really good. I think that's something about Denzel Washington. He's pretty consistent when it comes to like his performances and his movies. I think Mo Better Blues, I can't remember exactly. It might have been like around 89 or 90, 1990 or something. So that's kind of like 15 years or so before we get this performance right here. Right. And so, I think it's pretty consistent with him, man. He's a great actor. Like I think Puos was saying it earlier off the podcast. Like he got some shit, and he's pretty consistent with it every time. So I fucked with it.
You could just at this point just say this nigga's a god, man. It's if you seen Training Day, just the how this nigga just know how to play every character so well. Like I believe every role he in. This is like when if you go back to last week, I really wasn't a fan of Owen Wilson playing that role. I just couldn't really believe it, but I believed everything about this man in this. I forgot it was a movie. I'm like, bro, this nigga really wilding. Is this nigga crazy? Mm-hmm. Like, did they set this nigga up? Is he just? So I mean, Denzel, that nigga, man, that's what it is. That's him.
I'll say that I fucked with his character, but to be honest, this is probably my least favorite character that he played. Okay. Just because I'm one of those people that like I appreciate Denzel not just for how good of acting he is, but because of his spin that he puts on it, like his own mannerisms that he adds, or maybe he doesn't add them; it just comes out subconsciously. But like if you ever see someone doing a Denzel impression, there's certain things that they do in order to make that impression complete. And I didn't see a lot of those things or pretty much any of them in watching this movie. There's certain faces that he makes, on a consistent basis, but that's about it. But
So would you consider that
go ahead.
Would you consider that like submitting to the role, almost like what was written? He really wanted to be true to the character that was given to him by the director, and so he kind of let go of maybe some of the Denzel Washington isms, if you will, and he tried to really like fall into this part. Or do you think that maybe some of his essence was missing, and that kind of hurt your viewing experience of him on this film?
Well, it's only me, my personal opinion. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that he did any worse than his other, characters. I'm just saying that this is my least favorite one. Now, in the realm of acting, there is a such thing, as you said, of submitting to the role, completely becoming the character that you're scripted to be, which I feel that he did that very, very great. It's just I'm more entertained by the roles that he takes when he's in a more dominant position, and so that's why it wasn't as likable to me. Again, I still fuck with the movie. I still fuck with him in the movie because Denzel, like he's a fucking guy. He's one of the ghosts of this shit. Yep. But I definitely have some other Denzel characters that I have higher than
like who, for instance. Like which type of
American Gangster, of course. I think my favorite performance of him is in Two Guns with Mark Wahlberg. Him in Two Guns with Mark Wahlberg. He is full Denzel, bro. He's full Denzel.
Is fire. That Marky Mark.
Man on fire.
What's the shit? It came out like 2016. Fences was super fire. That nigga was crazy in Fences.
Training Day is the greatest movie ever.
And Training Day. He got a lot.
Yeah, and on the topic of vulnerability, I guess we can jump into the plot because in this movie, Denzel Washington is playing somebody who's got a lot of shit on his shoulders. So like I was saying before, he's a military captain essentially. They're in the Gulf War. They're in Kuwait, if I recall correctly, right? 1991.
Yeah, 1991.
They're deployed there or whatever. They rendezvous with everybody and stuff like that. They get ambushed and shit. We're given a recollection early in the movie of essentially Denzel Washington's character and his group being jumped. They have an altercation or whatever else, and then we leave from that moment. Okay. So the understanding is that Denzel Washington now, he's still with the military or whatever, but he's doing like appearances. He's like doing a talk at a school or whatever, talking about what he went through and talking to, I guess, the ROTC, which is like in a school where they train certain kids for like the military. They have like military like pre-training and shit. They gear them up to go.
I think it was a Boy Scouts group. That's what it looked like. Was it?
Yeah, I thought it was either like a Boy Scouts or like a ROTC, but he's doing a talk and he's talking about like what he went through in the military or whatever. And talking about the fact that people were deceased, but there's some anxiety about the fact that those people passed away. And after the fact, somebody comes up to him after his presentation. They had kind of heckled him from the crowd and asked if he felt like it should have been him that got the award or something like that, right? The Medal of Honor, right? But who was that person? It was somebody who was with him, right?
Corporal Marcel or something like that. Corporal Melvin, that's what it was.
Corporal Melvin, okay. And what did he have to say to the captain when they have that little interaction there in the hallway?
When they have the exchange, that's when he starts asking, and it's crazy because you can tell that there's something in the back of Ben Marco's mind that says he's speaking to something that you're experiencing as well as him. But for whatever reason, he doesn't engage him on that level. He more so engages him on the level of, you need some help, son, on that type of shit.
Yeah.
And he's clearly fucked up about it. Like, he starts fucking talking to the wall. Like, he just can't get these images out of his head of dealing with what is reality and what is not.
Okay, and it's more specifically around obviously a few particular details. He says to him that we were all saved by Shaw, right? Who is one of their other crewmates and stuff like that. He goes, but that doesn't make sense. He dropped some papers that he had on the floor, some files, right? And he's kind of mumbling about Shaw and like how things don't add up and stuff like that. At which point he's like, you need to get help. But this is setting us up, obviously, because we learned that Lawrence Shaw is the vice presidential candidate. Raymond, right? Raymond Shaw, and he's being pushed as his vice presidential candidate, despite not really having that much favor with the people. But because he's a war hero, they have like a kind of narrative, and his mother, who seems to have political leverage as part of her belonging to a particular corporation, she's gonna try and like peddle for Raymond to win the presidency, right? So
yeah, I think also
yeah,
he was a senator, and so she was also a senator because her husband was a senator, his father was a senator, and when he died, they said she basically assumed his role and became a senator, I guess. So that's kind of like how she got involved in that fucking political party type shit.
Right, and so he's obviously
that bitch. What is that, Meryl Streep?
Meryl Streep
tripping in that movie, boy. That bitch, she
played that shit good.
A villainous role, I'll tell you.
She played it well.
Bitch, she was.
Yeah, like that was the.
That means she did fire Pulos, right?
Yeah, she went crazy.
Some shit happened to this bitch. Like
the same with Raymond. I think he did a really good job. With
is that Cotton Weary from Scream 3?
That is definitely Cotton Weary. Yes.
Yes,
that is 100% Cotton Weary. That is also Sabretooth.
Yeah,
X-Men Origin.
X-Men
know
Origins.
That is that.
And his brother was also in this movie too for a little while. His brother is the guy that got killed, not Anthony Mackie, the other one. The one that was killed.
Oh, that's fire.
Yeah, the one Denzel killed. That was
pop the shit out, buddy. Pause.
The nigga that got shot in the face and then blinked as he died. That was fucking weird.
Nigga ate some noodles after that shit. He ain't give a
Roots.
What's up, Kizzy?
I got a question. You as a military man, you don't think like some of this shit might have happened to you before or something, and you don't know about it, bro? Like,
no, I can recollect. I can recollect everything that has happened.
But you never been to war though, right? You never been
exactly. No, I don't. I don't disagree that this has happened in some way, shape, or form at some point. Definitely overseas in Germany with MK Ultra and all that shit that happened. But
who else? That nigga don't remember going to war. You don't remember it.
Yeah, his ass was definitely out there wilding. They done scrambled your brain. Now you doing a fucking podcast.
Hey, bro, if you got any scars you don't know about, bro, check about it.
For real.
This nigga want to know my body. Fuck out of here.
I'm telling you to know your own body.
Hey, yo.
Hey, let's dial it in just a little bit. Obviously Meryl Streep, yeah, she does a stellar job in this film, and more particularly, she's a moving part that we get more information on. But as far as the beginning of this movie, we just get kind of Denzel Washington having some lingering doubts and trying to consult some people about what's going on. What do we think was the first kind of climax of this movie? First sort of turning point, if you will.
When Ben bit the shit out of Marco. Out of Shaw.
I don't think.
I don't think that either.
I don't think that was the first one though.
It was
I think the first one might have been whenever he was walking down the hall or whatever, and he got the phone call from the dude, and he told him to go to his closet or whatever the fuck, and then it ended up being fucking the operating room and shit.
In which I want to say something about that scene. I appreciate the storytelling with settings, how making slight changes to settings will help tell a story. For instance, in Limitless? In Limitless, whenever he took the pill, everything became a lot more vibrant and bright.
Oh yeah.
That shit that screen lit up. Yeah, screen lit up.
Exactly. This, whenever he was activated, they brightened up everything as if there was this beam of like UFO type light shining over him, and it just explains his state of mind has now shifted. You know, I think
Hey.
I really fuck with that.
This nigga, like back to, I said it a minute ago, but this nigga, Raymond Shaw, he did an amazing job of playing a fucking hypnotized like idiot.
Facts. I believe
No,
that.
He really looks like he was like hypnotized for real. Like that shit's crazy.
Y'all don't think the first climax was like when he was having the dreams and they was trying to program Raymond Shaw or Savior, right? That ain't the first climax to y'all.
So the dreams, so the dreams themselves, right? Now, what I like about them showing like the sort of dreams that Ben was having was that it gave me kind of a Shutter Island feeling. Like it's unclear whether or not this is like what's actually going on, what actually did happen in the past, or if this is just a product of his PTSD, the stuff that he's been diagnosed with, right? But I think Poulos is right, because prior to that point, like we're only given like these sort of vague like things that we could chalk up to the illness. But he goes into the closet, that was in real color. He goes, he sees. We later learn like that dude is like that professor, like that ex-professor or whatever, right? From Cape Town University, who was doing like the genetic implants to like change memory and shit, right? So we see this nigga getting his head drilled in and shit like that, and this is being shown to us.
Whoa!
Oh, damn! Come on!
Whoa!
Yeah, I never seen none of that.
No, but they show us like the surgical, you know, procedure and shit, and that happened. Chill. That had nothing, to do with Denzel at the time. So I think that was the first time we learned, like, okay, at least something is actually going on. Now, how is he going to prove it, right?
Yeah, and I think the way they did that with him, and then with Denzel, we saw in the shower where he saw the shit on his back. He's like, "What the fuck is this on my back?" And then he realized they stuck a fucking implant in my back, type shit. So that's the way.
I gotta make a critique just on movies in general. Whenever like you'll see somebody like it's a blood oath scene where somebody cut their hand and shake somebody else's hand, or somebody got to do something that involves cutting their skin. They don't ever react how a normal person would react to cutting their fucking skin open. This nigga winced like a little bit as he was shoving a blade into his shoulder blade. And that shit was just, yeah, fuck all that. You do it then.
Well, Roots, one thing I will say is that he was deployed to live combat, and I do understand that sometimes on the battlefield you have to like stitch yourself up in some way, right? So maybe it's some of that grit. I'm not going to write too much into the story for the sake of saving the cast, but I will say that, I mean, he had enough grit to do it, plus enough conviction behind whatever shit he was trying to piece together. So let's just let him have it, right?
because that nigga is a military captain and Root's just in the communication center for him.
You trying to say Root's like a lower level than that nigga?
Hey, Root's the nigga that be talking to Marco on the walkie-talkie, bro.
Oh man,
I'll tell you what. I'll give you $100. I'll give you $100 if you can cut into your shoulder blade. Nigga,
I'm not a captain,
without making a face.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not a captain.
Hey, you the captain of your own life, all right? Oh, captain, fuck it, Luno, you do it.
Yeah, man, I'll get around to it, man. But no,
might die.
But no. But look, so there's some interesting parts of this. Obviously, after that revelation or whatever, that the surgical procedure is happening, there's still a disconnect. But one thing that they give us is Ben trying desperately to get into contact with Raymond, right? And to let him know like about these dreams that he's been having. Now, at first, he denies the dreams and shit like that, right? But he piques enough interest. They end up into essentially at some political speech that he was gonna do. He lets Ben into the room and they start having a conversation about this shit. And Ben presents to him the file that he prior found, at least in one of his other former sergeant's apartment that was vacated, right? For one, what he goes into the room, he sees like the parts of like what they were taught or whatever, or like what Raymond always says is like what happened back in the military and shit. He sees that shit written on the wall and like newspaper postings, just like he has in his house about Vice President Shaw, right? And so after he goes and he looks into the book, basically what happens there, because we jump after that point, right? He's on a train and he's having a dream about all that crazy shit that was going on before, right? And then he wakes up and Shorty's there.
Yeah, this is actually something that happens often throughout the movie where he just completely there's a time lapse or just a time skip of him being in one place and then waking up in another place. And that happens often. And I think that explains to his mind state. I fuck with it. And he always wakes up in like a cold sweat. Like he's like super sweaty and shit, and he's like confused of why the fuck am I here? I was just somewhere else, or at least I thought I was. And everything is just really cloudy for him. And I fuck with that part.
Now, Shorty, now this is crazy to me, right? Like, one thing I really like about this movie is that all the characters are placed. There's never no like goodwill person that this nigga just knows that surrounds him. Everybody around him is somehow implicated in the larger plot of the significance of those events from the past and shit. She's not just somebody who knows him from the cashier fucking ringing up his milk and his favorite books.
Which we don't know that until way later, but yeah.
But we don't know that yet. So she's like the first little glimmer of hope. Like, okay, there's somebody else.
Hey, Luna, they frame her like she's just like a person of interest, like somebody like a love interest almost, that he's like getting to connect with type shit.
Yeah, I thought it was awkward, her approach. Like almost she was trying to like flirt with him a little, like inviting him back and shit.
Look, though, if you think about
it, literally went from meeting this nigga on a train, from knowing him in the store, and then now you're letting him take a shower in your apartment.
And on top of that, he flipped out on the train, right? He was kind of far out, not really quite getting her and shit. He had to get up and go to the restroom. He starts having an episode in there, and crazy enough, y'all remember he was in the bathroom. He had to take his pill, but he had a delusion, right, or a hallucination,
right? Of the surgical doctor.
I think I don't know if it was the surgical doctor. I thought that was the guy from the UK who was supposed to serve as their guide on their old mission. Who they said
that was the doctor.
That was the surgical doctor, because he said the same thing that he said to Shaw whenever he was like, "Do you remember me?" And he said no.
Yeah, that's that guy, the one that did the transplant.
Oh, okay. So at that point in the movie, they already show us him before we even learn his name.
Yeah, I think we saw him a couple times before we knew his name. I think what they did with that was I didn't realize it before, but I'm assuming that that's a memory, because they had I'll say a memory and a hallucination type shit. But what it is, at first I thought like he was physically there, but now I'm kind of seeing that he wasn't actually physically there. And to this point, we don't see him introduced to Marco, but of course they know each other from the past because Marco had the fucking surgery done and we didn't know about it. And so I think that's he was recounting that like a memory almost, but it was still a hallucination.
That's the bathroom scene, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Puos, I'm not gonna lie. The first time whenever he got up and ran to the bathroom, like, this nigga don't know how to talk to hoes, bro. What the fuck wrong with this nigga?
That nigga just like he's just panicking and shit though. But
did y'all not see what happened on that part?
I saw what happened. That's just the first thing that came to my mind.
Now what happened? I can't remember.
He saw, like, he was looking at her and he wasn't really talking type shit.
Oh, the gun
he saw a bullet in her head and it started dripping.
I'm talking about in her crib in the bathroom. Like,
are you talking about after that? Okay.
Yeah, I thought we was already right there.
Oh yeah, because like as we were kind of getting into before, but this is the part that falls after. So if we can get to that, like he was in her crib type shit. She offered him a place to wash up once they got off the train and shit. So he ended up over at her crib. Shorty offers him a shower. He's taking the shower and shit. And as Black Roots brought up earlier, the scab, he realizes there's some weird ass scab on my back or whatever. But I guess he felt like there was something behind that shit. He takes a knife out of his toiletries and starts fucking like trying to cut that shit out in her bathroom. Now, this is crazy to me, yo. And I think this speaks to what Pujols was saying. There was probably a number of different ways he could have reduced the attention to himself. But Shorty's like, "Are you okay?" Nigga didn't respond for
and he's not saying shit, bro.
Yeah, but he already
like, bro, say, "Nah, I'm good."
But before that, she kept asking, like, before he
definitely
he was like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm just I dropped my bag," and she's still.
Hey, pause. But look, though, he definitely told her, but then he just kept making noise too.
Yeah,
nigga definitely was fumbling around in there.
The nigga cutting his damn skin with a knife.
She don't know that.
Yeah,
so look, I'm saying if somebody was in your bathroom making all that noise, you probably be one.
I'm not gonna stand to the door.
It's nothing in my bathroom that's gonna make me want to come in there when somebody else in there. Like, get off his dick. Like
but you wouldn't. you wouldn't be wondering what the fuck all that noise is.
I wouldn't give a fuck to the point where I wanted to open that bitch up. But
me either. But I'm just
that
saying,
point
like,
right there, that shows right there that she was connected to that shit already. Because I feel like a normal person would have been like, this nigga doing some weird shit, instead of I gotta see what the fuck going on.
Or maybe she thought he was, to be like, to her credit, maybe she thought he was like getting hurt or something, hurting himself or doing some stupid shit.
And this a military nigga, man. Let that nigga do his
yeah, but they think he got PTSD and shit and bipolar disorder.
He does have it.
Yeah, so that's reason to like believe that he might be
tell you like this, man. If you hear me doing some shit in the bathroom, get off my dick, nigga. Don't come in here, nigga.
Nah, if you got mental issues, bro, I'm gonna be like, who else? You good, bro? You straight?
I'm gonna say, the first time, go back and do what you
do.
If I hear you doing some wild shit in my bathroom, I'm gonna knock on the door and say, hey, bro, get the fuck out of my bathroom.
Why though, nigga? It's
hell yeah, nigga.
Nigga, that's my bathroom, and you in there doing some wild shit.
We just saw Mario and Luigi fuck up like these people's bathroom before, like a week ago.
That ain't, bro. Who told them to send their dog in there with them niggas? That ain't.
I'm just saying.
This is what
you gotta watch people
though,
in your bathroom.
Even though this is like a minuscule part of the movie, but my nigga, he could be in there taking a massive number 2. That nigga might be grunting while he doing it. Like, get off my dick. If I'm in the bathroom, leave me the fuck alone, bro. Get off my. She popped in that hole, made my man's drop the shit. Like, damn, bitch, if you would have sat your ass down.
She's like, what the fuck are you doing? She got in there.
And now he look crazy. He can't explain.
He looked guilty.
It was a chip in my back. You can't explain a chip being.
There's a chip in my back.
It's not there no more. It ain't there no more when you come in. But it was a chip in your bitch. You made me drop it down.
Hey, that nigga said, you ain't see that? You ain't see what I had in my hand?
Nah, that shit sounds crazy, bro.
But before we get too off the rails, right? Let's get to the next part of this, which is obviously Marco, after investigated and shit, he wants to confront Raymond at the campaign headquarters, right? And they have a conversation about what's going on and shit. He presses Raymond about what happened back then and shit. And it seems like he's kind of getting through to him. So I felt like even though like Raymond realizes there's some gaps, it's almost like he knows what happened in the past. He just can't remember doing it.
But why this time though? Because did I miss something? Like, because when he first seen him, he was like, "Nigga, stop touching me," and I was like, "Get away from me." Why did he talk to him?
I think at that point before he was dealing with that whole thing with old girl and whatnot, and he wasn't in the mood.
Okay.
So then he came over to talk to him, and she was like, "Nigga, stop touching me."
But at first, his words were, "I have to talk to you," right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So definitely, he something piqued his interest, and I mean, even to invite him upstairs after he already told him to leave the first time, it means like he was somewhat intrigued. But
that was the first thing he said to him. I forgot he was like, "I got to talk to you." And
right.
Walked up and like, "I got to talk to you too."
So there was some interest there, but nonetheless, like when they're finally there and they're having a conversation, he's like, "Yo, like they implanted some shit, I think, into my shoulder, yo, and I think we should check." And he's like, "Well, can't we just save this until after the election?" He's like, "Nah, for what, yo? Why do we gotta wait? We gotta figure this out now, yo, for the future of all this other shit, right?" So he's like, "No, you gotta get out of here." And immediately this nigga does what any black person should not do alone with a white elected official in any sort of Western country.
Nigga mauled him, bro.
And mauls this man, yo.
He really bit him. That's crazy.
It pins him to the fucking table like he's arresting this nigga. It bites into his neck, bro. Pause.
He bit his back.
Fucking Nosferatu. Fucking trying to, you know what I'm saying? But desperate to like try to get that shit. Now he does a stunt. He bites him, creates an open wound on his back or whatever, and gets apprehended. At that point, he's supposed to be going to the big house, right? But he's freed though. Out of Raymond's, thought that he was a good soldier and shit like that back then. Mm-hmm. He's taking responsibility, but I'm not gonna get him locked up. He's a good man, even on the slight chance that there's something to his little stories, as you call it, Mom. Mm-hmm. Like I'm gonna let this nigga free. And when
hold on, real quick. Don't skip because you skipping a part.
I'm not gonna skip. I'm gonna stay right now
go ahead.
Because after he's let go, nigga goes into the bathroom for a moment and shit like that. Starts fiddling around. It's something in the corner of his cheek or whatever.
Crazy boy.
Nigga had in his mouth the whole time an implant that
Oh
he
my
did out of
god,
that nigga's
that
back.
nigga had an
Son.
implant in his mouth.
Nigga,
How
God,
long?
bro.
Hold on, this nigga. Hold on, bro, because you did skip it. This nigga a savage, bro. In the middle of being interrogated after
Yeah, he
biting a
punched the shit
fucking
out of dude.
political official, he socked the nigga in the face after he said, "What you look mad? You want to hit me?" That nigga ain't say shit. Just sock that nigga in his
That nigga was
mouth,
talking
bro.
shit. That
That
nigga
nigga
was like,
asked for it though.
you want to hit
He
me? Hit
definitely
me.
he said, "Go
And he
ahead."
did.
That nigga said, "Bet."
And that nigga
Sock the
deserved
shit
it
out that
too.
nigga.
Don't get me
He's like,
wrong.
he hit
That
me.
nigga
He hit
deserved
me.
it. Because one
Yes,
thing I
you
was
told
thinking
him
about
to.
during that scene was like, why are these niggas being so aggressive and condescending, yo? They were really treating this nigga like a dumb, crazy person,
I
son.
Because he's a black
mean,
man, Luno.
no, we're
They-
not doing that shit. You
They
bite
gotta be a
the
dumb crazy.
you bite the future vice president, nigga. They should have shot your ass in there. They really
True.
Nah, that's a fact. They really should have shot
He
that
got
nigga.
off good for a black man. I say you what.
Future vice president. That shit had an election for that nigga. He wasn't elected.
So I said
Well,
future,
Don't matter, bro. He in the
Nigga's a
running.
candidate.
What
Nigga,
does
he's a
future
candidate.
mean?
Yeah, but what if he don't win the election?
But he did
Okay,
win.
well,
though.
you know,
Are we
damn well
doing
they're
this
fixing
right
it.
now?
I
No,
don't
yeah.
know if he won. Did he win?
He cleared.
Well,
What the
no,
fuck?
well, at
Yes.
the time
don't
of
know if
that,
they-
like shit or whatever,
maybe,
it
I
was
guess.
still they were still in competition. Now you're right, Pujols. They were still like, it was still like a race at that point and shit.
Yeah. At that point, he didn't win nothing.
That's why I said future.
Allegedly, we didn't. They didn't know.
That celebration wasn't for them to win the actual thing at the end.
Nah,
That was
they
later.
actually they were saying
But that was later in time.
I'm
celebration.
talking about middle of the movie type shit.
No, me too. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Future vice president, not current vice president.
Nah, he was
Was
a vice
that a
presidential.
celebration?
He was a vice presidential candidate, and his mother had won him like the candidacy, basically.
She basically talked she talked him onto the ballot.
Yeah, exactly.
okay.
But basically after whatchamacallit, this nigga does that shit, he gets freed or whatever else. This nigga Marco goes to the other candidate, bro.
Yeah, Tom Jordan.
He goes there and he basically tells him all the fucking information that he's got up to now, including the information about Atticus Noel, right? Who's the doctor who was doing all those tests and shit like that, right?
Right.
Whatchamacallit, this nigga says nobody's gonna believe you, bro. Like this shit is just gonna look like a crazed person that they allowed next to the president. But this is gonna look horrible, man. Nobody's gonna take your story for it. And then when he leaves, he goes with all that information and goes and confronts Raymond talking about some nigga. We know you. We
Now,
know.
this is where I have a question. This is where I have a question for y'all. Do y'all think that him taking that information to Shar and his mother was of personal gain to get him to not run, or was that for the sake of the country?
I think it was the second one. I don't think he was really trying to do that for his own personal gain.
What'd you say?
He said, do you think he brought that information to them for his own personal gain because he wanted to win the election, or you think he did it for the greater good of the country and shit?
I think it's a little bit both ways. I could say for both ways, but I think because all of what he said ended with withdraw from the campaign, like it kind of seemed like they were trying to make it look like it was
I think it
instrumental.
seemed like it.
Yeah,
I just don't think he was like being. I don't think he was being selfish, but when he was doing it.
My only thing is that why would he act like he was so unsympathetic to it when he was talking to Marco, but not be sympathetic, but be sympathetic to it when he's talking to them specifically? It's almost like he wanted credit for what was found in a kind of way. So it could be the case he was doing it for the quote unquote greater good, but even further than that, to be the man that was at the front lines when they discovered that this about to be vice president nigga was actually crazy and that there was this conspiracy. Like maybe he wanted the credit. He didn't want Marco.
Now, when he was talking to Marco, there was towards the end of the conversation that he only a little bit, but gave a little bit of validity to what Marco was saying. Just thinking back to his time while he served and the certain things that he saw and saw things get covered up and whatnot. So he tapped into that mindset and gave Marco some type of validity to what he was saying. But at the same time, it looks better him going and confronting instead of Marco.
So I believe that but I believe that most of this movie is majority of the characters are skeptical about it because who would believe, like we all got this story that we've been fed for a long time that Shaw is a war hero and he saved the entire unit because Marco got knocked out, and it was an ambush. So they got this story that they've been feeding them for a long time. It's been years. I don't know how many years exactly, but I know it's years. And so they've been feeding the people, the American people, everybody, this same narrative. And so if somebody else comes behind and says, okay, that shit didn't really happen, it's like people don't really believe that. They kind of skeptical about it. And so I think for Marco, he had to really get people on his side to believe, even with the FBI lady. The reason she was around was because she was trying to snoop and find out more information about the shit. And so I think that's a lot of what happened. Like, people were skeptical about what he was saying the entire time.
People were definitely skeptical, but he made a lot of noise, Marco. I think that with Marco and all the things that he was doing, the people in the FBI who were doing, I think, according to that chick, she was saying basically that the FBI, remember when he tried to strangle her and shit, like we all know, she basically, she revealed that she's working with the FBI and like a secret unit that's tasked to actually look into these experiments from the past, So basically what follows is that they organize a meeting between Marco and the vice president-elect in like a school like appearance that he was doing and shit, right? He goes to vote at a local school. They put him into a classroom and shit, and Marco's just in there and shit. And they get to having a conversation. Now, before this scene, I'm pretty sure that they did the procedure or whatever on
Wait, hold on. Is that before he choked the shit out that nigga?
Oh yeah, you're right. Because
before we talk about that, there's a a little side storyline we didn't really mention at all.
Okay.
That the Joycelyn shit, that was Tom Jordan's daughter, and that happened to be the girl that, like, I guess they talked. Yeah, but they talked a little bit like back in the day when they was younger type shit, and his mama fucked it up for him. Yeah. And so they kind of reintroduced her, and he trying to get with her, and she not with it type shit. We found out he was like a lame ass nigga. He said he ain't had no friends or no girlfriend until he was like 20. And but so
we skipped that too though, Slim. In the beginning of the movie, they like when they introduced him, they was like, man, this lame ass, weird ass nigga.
Yeah, they wasn't trying to let him play cards, bro.
Yeah.
I thought about that immediately after I watched it. Like the first scene, like when he opened up the back of the truck. Like all
and everybody stared at that nigga, cut the music off and everything.
Yeah, whenever he closed it, they was talking crazy. Anthony Mackie, they was talking crazy.
Nigga said
about
nigga need a friend.
He wasn't wrong. Nigga did.
Yeah, so we kind of get that backstory. Like he was kind of a loner or an outcast or something. He ain't got no friends. He's socially awkward or whatever. And so I don't know. I think it works for this character. This character was really good, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree with you. But nonetheless, one thing that Roots touched on was that like that ray of light shit that was happening. This is actually an activation sequence, I'm pretty sure. So Meryl Streep's character, I'm pretty sure that she understood that whatever the surgery and stuff is, there's a way you could talk to these niggas who had the surgery and basically like awaken like their like be able to like tell them some shit or make them
what she did with him and when she did it with Marco is like she called a whole name, first, middle, and last name.
That shit is funny,
so she called them by their first name and she called them by their last name, then their first and last name, and then
first, middle, then
yeah.
And she gave him the order, obviously, as we learned, to kill the opponent and the daughter who was his old lover and shit, right? But that scene there or whatever is pretty much what ensures that he's gonna win the election and shit like that. And this is getting close to the celebration that that Pools was talking about. Essentially, there's like a final moment. They're about to like finally like celebrate this shit or whatever, right? This is a weird scene for me. Now I want to ask you niggas about this, right? So as we know, when Marco confronts Raymond in the schoolhouse, right? They have an interaction together, but Raymond says essentially, you might be misunderstood, because I'm the enemy. His mom calls on the phone. He's like, hi, Mom. Yeah, he's right here. And he allows the mom to talk to Marco directly and shit, right? She does the same shit that she did to him to do like the little activation or whatever.
Facts.
And they dropped the hint somehow. I don't remember how, but it was basically like the hint that the shot will be fired tomorrow from something. Like it was like some information like that Meryl Streep's character was telling.
Basically how they did it was they had him answer the phone. You see him get activated, and then you cut to Shaw leaving into the hallway, leaving from the classroom. I guess whatever area that was. He leaves from that out of the door, goes down the hallway. The FBI agent goes to check on Marco, can't find him. All right. The FBI agent goes to look for Marco, can't find him. Somehow this little room leads to some fucking Thanksgiving play that's being put on in the auditorium and shit. Basically, she can't find him. And then fast forward, there's a conversation between Shaw and his mother I'm guessing this was before he met with Marco, explaining him the plan and everything like that.
This was after.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, they basically
the conversation they had was
immediately whatnot.
Facts. It was immediately before that celebration, so she definitely kind of just gave everything away about like how he got involved in this. She gave him away, and because she wanted to get him in this position because she couldn't have the position, so she wanted to try to set him up for it in life or whatever the fuck. And so she definitely kind of gave us the entire backstory with the Manchurian company and how these niggas got involved in this shit.
I'm pretty sure.
Well, here's a weird thing. Yeah. I'm sorry, real quick. Here's a weird thing for me, right? So I don't know if he has finally just succumbed to his mother's power or whatever, but when he's having the conversation with Marco in the classroom, when he gives over his Medal of Honor, saying that he doesn't deserve this and all these things, and I think I killed the other candidate and all of this stuff, and he's crying. Why? Like not like boo-hoo fucking crying, but he's like he has tears falling from his eyes, and then his mother calls the phone, and he just hands over the phone to Marco as if he's been hypnotized this entire time or activated this entire time. Right. And if that's the case, I think what that was his self, like his true natural self, kind of protruding through the facade of that he's putting on while being activated.
Yeah, like
he expresses true emotion while he's talking to him.
They gave him the mission, but I think he definitely felt bad about what he did. Like he put the pieces together for himself, even though like I guess that shit makes it so you're technically supposed to forget. Like bro definitely like felt like he did the shit. I think he believed in Marco at that point and shit. But we finally get to the end where, obviously Marco's been given the mission. Now, what I wanted to ask about that scene is that FBI worker walking in and putting his bag down and shit like that, putting the bag down behind the vent and shit. That was like
he wasn't an FBI worker. He was one of the
security
bodyguard security.
Yeah. He was the same dude like throughout the movie, but he leaves a bag up there. I guess that was with the murder weapon and shit.
Facts,
all the pieces and shit. Okay. And then that last part of the movie here, essentially, he's looking up to take the shot and shit. And the move was supposed to be when they step on the star, right? That Marco was supposed to shoot the other nigga or whatever, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But when the time actually comes, he doesn't pull the trigger during the celebration. Raymond embraces his mother or whatever and keeps on looking up at Marco. All right. What do you think was that eye-to-eye communication? What the fuck was he
I think he knew. I think at some point he maybe managed to kind of break free of this sleeper mode and kind of, do actions through it. And I think that was kind of being led by the whole giving over the Medal of Honor thing. But somehow he's managed to break this trance and he understands what the situation is. And he's trying to figure out the best way to either keep it from happening or make it happen a different way. His mom isn't supposed to be up there next to the rail with him, but he calls her up there while the music's playing and starts dancing with her, all the while continuously making eye contact with Marco up in the rafters and whatnot. So I think that was just him trying to change, what the outcome and whatnot. So
yeah, I feel like it was that whole last part was kind of set up by Shaw, because so whenever they're in the school, whenever they meet in the classroom, that classroom meeting is orchestrated by the FBI agents, and so that was they were supposed to be there together. And so while it seems like it was a setup for Shaw to get him there so he could talk on the phone, I think that was orchestrated because as you see, like the FBI agent led him there, and then they wouldn't let the bodyguard in, so he couldn't see that Marco was in there. And so I feel like at some point Shaw was able to break the trance, like y'all said, because even whenever he was talking to his mom right before the ceremony, like she was like kissing him and talking about his smile and all this, and
that incest shit.
That shit was weird.
That was a
That's a
really
fact.
hold on. Let's address that. Was a very weird scene.
That was definitely weird.
That was very weird. She was mighty close, and that kiss didn't seem like a kiss that would be exchanged by a
between
mother and a son.
Yeah, I thought that shit was a little bit like she almost looks at that nigga like her little pawn to the point like she dehumanized. Like that's not even her son, really. That's just her little like political trophy. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I feel like they was giving off like occult signs and shit like throughout the movie too. Like some of the pictures and shit that they was drawing, and
that's another thing too. Yeah. Oh, remember in the drawings found in the records in that guy's apartment that some of them included like this Medusa-esque looking figure, like in like Middle Eastern garb and having like these symbols on her face and shit. Like
they showed a picture. They showed that too in one of the dreams or something. They showed that woman. That's why I said I think it might have been some kind of cult shit going on too with this shit.
Okay,
I think that might explain some of that. Either some satanic shit or some cult shit.
Yeah, because they're drawing like the sideways swastikas and shit in the book.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some
Beasley shit.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Some occult shit going on beneath that. But one thing I was like toying with the idea was that at the end it was a death wish. Like maybe he was looking up at him and like kind of saying like I'm tried with all this shit. Like be
he nodded.
Yeah, he gave him like the little signal to go ahead and air us both out
for the shot.
Yeah, like be the real hero.
So like somebody said the star thing. What happened was he was supposed to step on the star. He didn't step on the star from the beginning. Like he
wouldn't stand on the other side of him.
He stood on the other side, and so that's why he couldn't take the shot then, because he didn't step on the star. And he definitely led his mother right there. Like he knew what he was doing. Like he led her to that spot where the shot was gonna go off. And so I feel like somebody just said he did that purposely. Like he definitely wanted that to happen. He wanted to die. He wanted her to die too. That's why he brought her right there with him.
And it's funny. It's funny how they did that, right? So they kind of stretched it out a little bit because you have to give time to show the inner fight that Marco is having while he's holding this fucking sniper rifle. And so he puts his mother on the star that he was supposed to be standing on in order for her to get shot. And then or him to get shot rather. And then he starts twirling with her and dancing with her and whatnot. And this whole time he keeps looking up like, hey, nigga, shoot, do something other than what you're programmed to do right in this moment. But I definitely fuck with that scene just because of that, because of the, all right, you're not going to shoot her now. Let me give you a little bit more of something to let you know, hey, don't do that bullshit. Do this.
Now, what about the aftermath of that? Whenever old girl saw like I said, the eye contact and him looking up and nodding and all that shit, and so that's I assumed that she knew that he was up there already. I assumed that all of them knew he was up there.
It was a moment, I think, like she saw where he was looking up at, and then she looked up and then maybe caught it and then like kind of radioed in. You couldn't hear it, but she radioed.
Yeah, because I thought that was part of their plan at first, but I don't know if it was or not. I know she got there in time to stop him from killing himself. I don't know if that was part of their original plan or not.
Yeah, no, nigga definitely caught a fucking bullet to the shoulder, kept him from offing himself and shit. Just in
that shit might have woke him up too. It might have deactivated him too.
That
maybe
nigga was definitely
a bullet will wake your ass up too.
I've never been hypnotized, so I don't know how strong it is.
You think you never been hypnotized?
I'm not Black Roots.
Yeah, nigga. Why the fuck? All right.
All right, man. What else, man? What else?
Nah, man. At the end, obviously, after that shot was fired, and they go to catch him. I think Marco was about to kill himself. He had he pulled out like a pistol. He was about to kill himself, but Rosie arrived and basically prevented him from killing himself by shooting him. Right. I thought he had also just been shot dead at that point too. So I was kind of surprised at how they did it. But
I didn't think Shaw was gonna die, but he did. I didn't think he was gonna die.
Yeah,
that shit went through both their ass.
Facts. But basically, the FBI framed the Manchurian Global company or whatever.
That was kind of fire.
They edited
that just shit was fire. How they just edited that shit.
Yo,
it's insane, actually.
And the entire corporation takes a hit as a result. You see like those rich white dudes fucking crying and shit in their suits and shit.
Is that why she did like? Okay, my bad. Earlier, whenever he first walked in, she told dude on the camera to zoom in. Is that why she did that? So they can get that picture?
I don't know.
Because that was the same picture that they edited. Or the same video, I mean.
So originally it was Marco in the picture in his military garb. They edited it and then just put in that frame the dude from Manchurian.
But do you remember earlier, like when he first pulled up and they was looking at it on the camera? She told the dude to zoom in on that.
Yes, that's a really good catch. So
I think that they were just trying. I think she was trying to find him because she knew he was gonna be there, but she didn't know exactly where he was gonna be at.
I don't know because that was the exact shot that we got earlier.
That's the exact shot.
It could be that at that point they were literally just taking a screenshot because that was going to be the hit.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah. It could because what she did was like she saw it and then she told dude, "Oh, never mind," or some shit like that. But maybe they kept that in the back pocket for that moment where they can frame that shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Could be, but
they framed that shit perfectly too.
They ended up, taking that company to hell and shit. And you find
the Manchurian niggas was pissed.
Yeah, no, they were crying. The nigga was crying, bro. That nigga was so smug. They were at the ball earlier where they were first meeting Raymond and shit, and Raymond was trying to give him like a positive gesture, like we're gonna give you more assets than the European Union, and they're like, don't we have that already?
Got that?
Yeah, like these niggas were so smug, and now they're in tears. So fuck them. But at the end of the movie, we actually return to the site of the Operation Desert Storm that he participated in. Marco is there with Rosie, and they're on that remote island and shit, and he's like kind of doing some reflection. He has a photo of his crew and Raymond's Medal of Honor. He goes up to the coast and he just like lets it go in the sea. Mm-hmm. And that's how the movie ends. And
it ends with a voiceover, which was a flashback voiceover of the conversation that he had earlier with the dude about what you gonna do now, like what's gonna be the first of your duties or some of the shit that he was telling them. It ended with that voiceover, and I didn't understand why, because it had a fade to black then, so I didn't understand what that was about. But I don't know if it's about.
I think it may have been just like a call back to his reflection on, this is that's the last time I was here and whatnot, just to kind of add more context to the scene of his reflection.
It could be because I know like Luno mentioned Shutter Island earlier. At the end of Shutter Island, they kind of did the shit where he asked them a question like, "Is it better to live as a whatever or die as a whatever?" That was like some shit that kind of made you think at the end of the movie.
Yeah, so live as a monster, die as a good man.
Yeah, that made you think at the end of Shutter Island, and so I didn't understand what that voiceover was for in this movie, but it might be what you said, just a call back to what happened the last time he was in this spot or in this position or whatever.
Yeah, I think this is a good time for final thoughts, man.
Hell yeah, man. Let's go with Luno first, man. Bob Celeste.
All right, man. So obviously this was a great film. First off, just want to preface here that Creative Choice Caleb was not able to rock with us for the entirety of the cast, but he did leave his rating, which was an 8 for this film, Manchurian Candidate. So shout out to him. This movie here had extremely good, really extremely good pacing. I mean, 2 hours is a long ass movie, but you definitely gotta keep glued to the screen to get all the details. It was a fun movie. I think it was something that definitely had that psychological thriller element like Shutter Island. I felt like at times I was unsure of what was real and what wasn't, which I think is really strong for a movie. I thought that the main character especially was good, but we got to give some credit to Meryl Streep. I thought she probably had like the strongest acting role. I thought she was every bit the insane, corrupt, political villain, capital, whatever you want to call her. She did that shit excellent. And I thought that the movie itself overall was just really spectacularly written. Now I know that it's based on an original movie that came out, I think, in the 80s.
60.
Yeah,
No, yeah, you're right.
In the 80s, right? And a lot of critics have it as like a super classic. So I don't know how this holds up in comparison to it, but I will say that this movie here was extremely fascinating. I like the way that they made the dots connect throughout the story and helped us get there too. So it wasn't like a Shutter Island where it's like, it wasn't real or was it not, and I just don't know. Like I'm sure of what happened, and the revelation was fire and it was justified. So overall, man, this is a great freaking watch. I'm glad that I recommended it for this film here, The Manchurian Candidate. I gave it an 8.5.
All right, black shirt guy.
Yeah, man. I think we have a habit of kind of getting spoiled with having newer movies and old movies, and we kind of look at old movies expecting new movie type shit. I say that to say the war scene at the beginning of this movie was very poor, but I think it might just be a what's the phrase I'm looking for? Victim of the times that they were in. This was filmed and released in 2004. So, it's not going to look like fucking Lone Survivor or American Sniper or anything like that with their war scenes. But with that being said, I think they did well with what they had. I'll be honest, when I first realized that this was like on the conspiracy level type shit, I was a little bit skeptical because there's not a whole lot of movies that I'll willingly watch like that. But I will say that they played it very well. The unclearness that they wanted to project was they hit on target with that. From the way that they interpreted dreams, and showing, sometimes dreams are just a bunch of clips thrown together. And that's what they were doing, even though this was more so of a recollection of the past rather than just a dream, so I think they did those parts very well. The dialogue in this movie is really good. There's a lot of things that you can pull from the conversations that they have. It could just kind of make you, think. And, with all of that being said, I fuck with this movie. I'm probably not going to watch it again for a while. But I'll give this movie a 7.4.
All right, Lordy Lord, man.
All right, man. It was a good movie to me. You know what I'm saying? All kinds of little twists and turns every 15 or 20 minutes and shit. I was fucking with it. You know what I'm saying? I was a little distracted while watching it, but it was so good. I was still able to understand what was happening. And I would definitely recommend you to watch this. If you got a bitch spouse, watch it with her, depending on what type of woman is in your life. I wouldn't watch it with the average girl because she's gonna be like, fuck going on? Why you got me watching this stupid ass shit? But if you got like somebody who's into suspense, she'll love it. And I'm gonna give it a 8.5. I fuck with it.
All right. And I think it was a good movie. I liked it. A lot different than what I expected. I believe that's something that KTL said the other day too, because he watched it early. A lot different than I expected it to be. But it was Denzel Washington, man. I don't think he missed a lot. There's one movie where I didn't really like from him, Unstoppable, when he was trying to stop the train.
Hey,
Pause.
yo.
I said pause.
My bad.
But other than that, I don't think he really missed too often. And I think this was another one that was like really good, man. I fucked with it. The pacing was great for a 2-hour movie. When I found out Poole said it was 2 hours, I was like, damn, 2 hours. Then I looked at it, it said 2:09. I'm like, fuck. but the pacing was crazy. It took us right into the action from the beginning. It had us guessing from the beginning. It wasn't really no dry spots, and so that shit was fire to me. Overall, I give this movie a 8. I probably would recommend it. But yeah, I'm gonna give it an 8 overall. So with that being said, it was 5 of us, right?
Yeah, KTL gave it an 8.
All right. Wait, what?
What, that message you just sent?
What was it?
You guys pulling up here after? Don't never ask me that shit again, bitch ass nigga.
Yeah, for the Manchurian Candidate, we got a score of an 8. 8 flat, man. So
Pretty good.
it's pretty good, man. With
Best
that being
10?
said, I don't know. I think we got a lot of we got some 8s. We got some above 8s.
Is this
I
the
know.
new format? Niggas just gonna go StreamYard, so niggas ain't gotta edit no more.
I think we should. And salute to Dave, man. Dave Waving Blades podcast is in the building right now, and that's some shit that he told us we should do a while back. So salute to Dave, man.
Hey Dave, your ass bald as hell. And also, nigga, the reason a salute to you though, you my guy. But the reason like we edit a lot of this stuff is because we have some ignorant niggas up here and they say derogatory terms every once in a while.
We derogatory sometimes, man.
And niggas gotta edit that shit out, man.
Yeah. But yo, salute to the Wave and Blaze podcast. So we got to move to next week, Slim.
Yes, sir. I got the next pick, man. So this is going to be a movie that I grew up watching it when I was younger. It was one of my favorite movies, I recall. I don't remember it like that though. And so it's gonna be like I'm going into it like a fucking first watch. So I'm gonna recommend it. I don't know how great it is. I just remember it being good when I was a kid. With that being said, next week's movie is going to be 2003, starring Jason Statham.
Yep.
Ed Norton. You know, there's a woman in this movie. I don't know how to say her name. She was in Mad Max. Anybody know how to say that? The lady name? Roots, you know her?
I don't know what movie you're talking about.
Mad Max.
Oh,
that's the movie you talking about?
Charlize?
Yeah, Charlize. Nah, that ain't the movie. Charlize Theron or something like that.
Yeah,
y'all probably seen her name before. She been in a lot of shit. Yeah, she's in the movie, man. The star of the fucking movie, man. Puos, get ready. Mark.
Wow,
Mark
bro.
Wahlberg. For the first time ever on the podcast, we got a Mark Wahlberg movie, man. It's lit. 2003, The Italian Job, man.
Let's fucking get it, bro.
Italian Job.
We was talking about this movie like a few months ago.
Italian Job, man.
That sounds like a sex position, Paul.
What's wrong with you?
It don't like. Come on, yo.
No,
y'all, you lying. He lying.
Yeah, Puo's horny as hell. I don't know why.
Nah, that shit don't. Come on, like it clearly sounds like what. Like,
no, that's how you talk about heist, bro. You say the such and such job. That's how they talk about heist.
So
nigga ain't never been on a heist before.
I haven't, bro. What's up? So why do they call the other stuff jobs then?
Enough.
We'll find out next week, man, on the real.
No, we won't.
Hey, man, this has been episode 22 of the Real Rap Coalition podcast, man. We'll be back next week with another episode. We are out. In broadcast.